Hi guys, my name is Ari. I'm the Bookish Rican Ambi, and welcome to my channel. For those of you who have been subscribed and you've been watching, thank you guys so much. And if you're just stopping by and you're going to watch this video, thank you guys for stopping by too. I really appreciate it. It's crazy how much my channel has grown in the last 3 weeks. I haven't been doing this for very long, but it feels like everybody's been pretty much embracing me, so thank you guys. So I was gonna do this at the beginning of the month, but I was not in the emotional headspace to do anything the last few days, so I decided to put it off. And I even, you know, were thinking about making a blog post instead on my blog, but it just doesn't have the same effect. And so I decided that maybe doing a wrap up video would be more appropriate for me, just because I actually like doing this here, me and a camera, and some books, and we can just talk about the books that I read for August. Now, the first book I'm going to, show you is a political book. It's not something that I delve into too much, just because sometimes political books can be kind of stressful, and I don't really. It's sometimes they're a little bit boring. Political novels are a little bit, taxing on the emotional state. So sometimes I just don't read them. Well, most times I don't really read them. But this one I really wanted to try out because there's a character that's like my favorite, and her name is Lovely. I loved her. She was amazing. She was that ride or die. And yeah, she was such a spirited character, and you couldn't help but love Lovely. So, without further ado, the book that I am talking about is A Burning by Megha Majumdar, and I really enjoyed this book. Lovely was Javon's ride or die. That was English her English student. They became friends, and when Javon was framed for the terrorist attack on the train that killed hundreds of people, well, over 100 people. They never said what the number of people was on the train, but yeah, Javon is framed for a terrorist attack because of a Facebook post that she made that was kind of inflammatory and was considered anti-government. And she is arrested and tried and eventually executed. But Lovely um, did testify on her behalf in court, and it did not work out. So when it didn't work out, Lovely decided to focus on her dreams and the reason why she was learning English, and that was to be an actress. Eventually, she ends up becoming quite a commodity in the Bollywood scene. So, yeah, Lovely is quite the character in here. We love Lovely. And PT Sir was kind of this villain type of guy. He was one of Javon's former teachers. He was a PE teacher, and her case becomes the thing that helps catapult him political into a political position where he has much more power. and he ends up being the one who makes sure that she is actually executed in the end. And throughout the book, you have Siobhan trying to redeem herself, redeem her name, and try to clear things up. She actually begins talking to this reporter, and the reporter takes her story and twists it, and it actually ends up making the whole situation worse than it was before, and it was kind of the nail in the coffin. Even though many people had so many good things to say about her in court, it that article kind of still condemned her. So in the end, the two people who um, used this used her case to become something. They got what they wanted. Lovely was guilty about it at first because she got her parts based partially off of her testimony in court, because she was kind of, you know, she had this attitude about herself, and people, when they heard her voice, that's when they recognized her. And eventually the calls started coming in. Then they wanted her to do all these parts. So in the end, the other two got what they wanted, and Javon ends up, being executed for crimes that she did not commit. But all in all, it is a good book. I don't recommend it if there are things in the book that might trigger you. The trigger warnings are Islamophobia. There is a terrorist attack, an execution, quite a bit of violence against, quite a bit of religious violence against people, and yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah, you have a lot of violence against, Muslims in India, so it does show a lot of instances where Muslims are mistreated because of their beliefs. So yeah, this is a good book. I really enjoyed it, but I might read it again. I don't know. It's just very political, and there was only one character that I actually meshed with, and that was Lovely. So it is what it is. But all in all, it's a good book. I'll give it like a 3.5 out of 5, I guess, because it is a book that I didn't really relate to or mesh with. It definitely tells an important story and gives you a point of view that is very different, and shows you uh, what people in another country, on another continent, are dealing with. So I do really, really like this book. Um, this book was like recommended so many times from so many different people, different booktubers. Really, really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It had it gives you a glimpse of Hollywood in the 50s. I think yeah, about the 50s, late 50s, early 60s. So yeah, it's like you see this woman who leaves behind everything she knows, recreates her image and everything, and becomes like this huge superstar. The name of this is Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. It is told. It is a story told to a a journalist with the intent of writing a biography after Evelyn dies, and um, just selling it to the highest bidder because, you know, she is trying to make up for something that she had done in the past. And you eventually find out afterwards what it is. In the end, Monique ends up hating her because of the things that, because of this thing that Evelyn has done. And it just, it does have her story, um, about all of the people she married and the relationship that she had with a woman named Celia. And it's it's heartbreaking, and it makes you angry and frustrated all throughout the book. It is an amazing story. I probably will read this again sometime in the very, very distant future. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, this book is really good. It's well written, and the characters are really, really interesting. I really liked Monique, but Monique was kind of, you know, on the she was a little slow to the she was a little slow to the bases. Like, things just had to be, you know, just explained to her in detail because she just didn't pick up on a lot of things, which kind of aggravated me for a little while, just because Monique kept on, like, okay, what does this mean? Like, but then again, Evelyn was very cryptic in the way she spoke about certain things, so it was just, yeah, it was good. But all in all, I really liked the story. I really liked the characters, except for Evelyn because of obvious reasons. Bad thing about it was she actually warned her that she was going to hate her by the end, and she ended up hating her by the end. So there's that. I really did enjoy this book though. All right. This book was something that was quite anticipated by the book community. It's a story about Vivek, who struggles, I guess, with his identity and also struggles emotionally because of um, certain issues with who he was reincarnated from. Vivek in the story is supposed to be uh, an example of whether of what might happen if the person who is reincarnated from a certain person is not the same given gender as the person that they are reincarnated from. So it you see the reincarnation beginning to manifest itself in different ways, and it does make for a beautiful story. It's written beautifully. I was engrossed in it from the first page of the book. Kweke really, really wrote a beautiful book. They really did, and I thank them for writing this book because this actually forces a perspective that isn't usually talked about. I also thank them for bringing forth this. Of course, there are trigger warnings, incest, death, and violence, and some and bullying, of course. But in the book, it's such a relief to read a story like this, because it reinforces um this idea of given gender not being what that person actually identifies as. It actually gives you a different perspective and helps people to understand there are different scenarios that happen that cause, you know, people to question sometimes their gender identity and things like that. And I applaud them for this story and the way the story is written, because it is definitely an amazing way to write a character who has so much conflict in their life, because the people around them um, won't uh, acknowledge the reincarnation that happened with him, and giving him the proper, tools to cope with who he actually was. So I loved it. It's an amazing book. I did not mean to go so in depth, because there is actually a review of this on my channel. I will link that in the description below. And this is just an amazing book. I really love this book. Okay, this next one is actually a series by Amanda Foody. And going into this book, I was kind of hesitant about reading this book, because their first book left a lot to be desired. But once I started reading this book, I was in. It was just the world building of this book and the second book are just great. It has magic and these just different talents and things that people have according to just their genetic makeup. There are people that can light people on fire with the snap of their fingers, and people that can touch things and blow them up, or touch people and take away their pain. There are like all of these different powers and things like that. And it is very steampunky and very you know Victorian about there's a very Victorian way about this story. So with the series, you've got the first book, it's Ace of Shades, and Ace of Shades it introduces you to two main characters, Levi and Anne. Anne is trying to find her mother, and while trying to find her mother, begins to learn secrets, and these secrets eventually lead to her mother's death, which she finds out about 8 days after she dies. And then you have Levi. Levi is a gang lord. He is involved with this crime boss named Bianca, and Bianca has placed her omerta on him, and he basically has to do whatever she says. And in the book, he goes through and starts this investment scheme, and his friend gets killed because of it. And he is warned that if he doesn't pay the money back from the investment scheme, that they would invite him to the shadow game. And later you find out that N's mother also died in the shadow game. and Levi might be, subjected to the same fate, and eventually and ends up invited to the shadow game too. And no one has ever actually escaped the shadow game, and and Levi managed to escape. But afterwards, they end up running from the law because of the things that happened at this particular shadow game. Um, and in the second book, they're still running away from the law. They're pretty much, in hiding, but they are teamed up and in cahoots with all of these other gang lords. Levi actually has a love interest who is a club owner, and they throughout the book the gangs all band together. They begin making money together, and Bianca's son ends up being this wild card that comes in, and he's trying to become a politician, but he has Levi doing his bidding, and Bianca has N doing her bidding, and basically they're at odds with each other. And because they are at odds with each other, it makes for an amazing story. And in the end, chaos erupts, and then uh, we find out that Harrison might have some other things up his sleeve, which we will find out in the third book. It is actually a trilogy, and the third book just came out last week. I will be probably trying to get that from the library, but all in all, these are an amazing start to a series. I'm ready to read the conclusion eventually. But yeah, I really enjoyed the story. If you like magic and gangs and violence and a little bit of chaos, these are the books for you. um I What's intriguing about these books, is that you mix all of this, the gangs and the crime lords and all of this stuff, and they all have all of these powers, and they could literally destroy each other, but they're still using like your traditional knife and gun and everything. There's gang violence and the mafia violence and all of that stuff in here. So I really, really did enjoy these books. I think I have my grandmother's penchant for all things mafia related. I don't know why, but I do really, really enjoy books that have magic and mafiosos with powers and things like that, I guess. So these are really good. I can't wait to read the third book. And with all of that said, that's all I've read. I didn't read much this August. I was just kind of trying to chill out. We've been in quarantine for quite a while. So, if I do read a whole bunch of books, then I run out of books, and I don't want to do that. So I try to kind of pace my reading a little bit more, because I'm here and I know I'm going to be here for a while, and I have to not read everything that's on the shelf before, you know, I'm it's safe to go back outside and stuff like that. So, you know, it is what it is. But I read 5 books in August, and I'm pretty proud of myself. because usually I probably wouldn't have made it through that many. So that's pretty good for me. Also, I want to talk about my reading sprints. I will be uh, hosting some reading sprints on Wednesday at 7 o'clock. They will be called Readathon Madness. I know there are like, what, how many? I think like 5 readathons going on, give or take. And I know people sometimes just can't find the time to read, and this is a time for everyone to have a chance to get together, read, and discuss some of the things that they're reading for these readathons and things like that. So I'm really looking forward to hosting my second sprints. I think I did pretty good the last time with the sprints, so I'm like really looking forward to this. And October 4th, Latinx Heritage Month is coming up. I will be hosting a panel on October 4th for Latinx Heritage Month. This is going to be a part of Latinx Heritage Book Fest. I will be talking to Adri, Taylor, Jessica, and Rocio about what it's like being Latinx online. It's gonna be called Being Latinx Online. So I am really ready for that and really excited, but a little bit nervous too because I've never hosted a panel before. But I am totally up to the challenge, and I'm ready to see how well we can do with that. But with that said, it's time for me to go. I That was my August wrap up. To everyone in every time zone, every universe, every realm, have a good one. Peace.